Hey everybody, I'm Rosalind Dennett, and welcome to Season 4 of Refocus. Each episode, I'm joined by incredible guests from all areas of the music industry for real and informative conversations with a focus on folk. Hello and welcome to Refocus. Our guest today is Tommyphyll. Born and raised in Lagos, Nigeria, and now based in Canada, Tommyphyll is an Afrobeat innovator, crafting a sound that transcends borders. Coining the term Afrodiem to define his unique fusion of Afrobeats, 80s synth-pop, and classical music, Tommyphyll blends futuristic electronic textures with deep-rooted tribal percussion, creating anthems of empowerment, unity, and self-discovery. Since his professional debut in 2018, Tommyphyll has remained an independent force, producing all his own music and pushing creative boundaries. His 2020 self-produced debut album laid the foundation for a sonic journey that has taken him to multiple live performances, including a standout halftime show at the Winnipeg Sea Bears before an audience of 7,000. More than just an artist, Tommyphyll is a cultural bridge, weaving together his Yoruba heritage with modern and futuristic influences. His lyrics, often introspective and spiritually conscious, speak to resilience, joy, and the unbreakable will of the human spirit. He envisions his fanbase, the Inphylltrators, as a warrior family, a movement of individuals who find strength in music and their joint desire to break barriers in spaces they have been denied. And his latest EP, Love Me Like the First Day, is out now. Welcome, Tommyphyll. How are you doing?
I'm fine. Thank you.
I've been very excited to chat with you. Folks that are familiar with the Folk Music Ontario Conference may also remember you from your involvement there, patrolling their showcases. And it's always such a pleasure to get to work with you in that capacity as well. But we're here to talk about the online community that you've created and this online presence. And I wanted to start off right off the hop by asking you about the Inphylltrators. And I wish, it's a podcast so people can't see. We'll write it in the show notes. It's Inphylltrators with Pyll from Tommyphyll. Looks quite good. What inspired you to even come up with the idea of kind of naming your own kind of community and fan base? What about that was appealing to you? And then how did the Inphylltrators come about?
So I've been a big fan of just the concept of having and knowing a community. Being able to identify your own people in a crowd, think about it like how you go somewhere and you're just like, okay, yeah, based off this name, this person listens to this and this person's music. I was like, okay, this sounds very interesting. And in a sense, it's almost like the community outside, what I wanted was like the community outside of me would be able to be like, make friends, connect with each other. It's, oh my God, you're an infiltrator, you listen to this music, blah, 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 blah. What was your best album? That was what I envisioned, so that it's easier for people to connect. And then when we go to the concerts as well, like everybody who buys tickets to the shows also just kind of feels this sense of belonging, because like just leaving it to the wind and not having anything that kind of defines everybody, like all the people who listen to my music, I feel like I didn't want to get lazy with it, so I might as well just do something, and it's stuck.
That's so neat. Did you poll people or did you just come up with it and you're like, this is what you guys are? Or did you poll?
No, I did poll people like on social media. The funny thing is the Infiltrators wasn't even part of the initial poll. Like I had the High Society, I had the Big Tree, I couldn't even remember the
Phillies,
names. Funny enough, like I didn't want to use anything that had Phil, because when I was asking some of my friends, they were like, "Oh no, you should use like the Philharmonics." Yeah. There was this other one, the Philanthropist. I was like, nah, this isn't hitting, especially based off like the message of my music as a whole, which is kind of like based off of empowerment, confidence, moving to the beat of your own drum, that kind of thing, going into spaces where you may not have been given access before. And I was thinking, I was like, okay, based off the message for the music, if everybody likes the music, what would they like to be identified as? And I was just thinking, I was like playing with, synonyms and different words and all these things. I was like, wait, what words have feel in it? Let's even start from there first. And I did a whole list. I was looking through the different lists that I had made and all that. And Infiltrate stuck out to me, and I was like, this is it. Like, it's direct, it gets straight to the point, it encapsulates the message perfectly. Let's see how they actually like
Mhm.
it. And I just started running with infiltrators, and nobody protested. The people who heard it were like, "Oh yeah, I like this one." I was like, "Yeah, okay, we have something."
Yeah, so it was a good reaction from the
It was
community.
it was a pretty good reaction. Yeah, it was a good reaction.
Good. So Afrodiem is your kind of crafted genre, and genres are always such a tricky thing, right? People always have this slash this slash this slash this. Some people really identify with a particular type of music. What inspired you to create your own label for what you do?
I feel like in a world that's filled with different people doing different things and fitting into like different boxes, I wanted to send a message straight out the bat that with my artistry, if anybody is going to put me in a box, I'm the one who's going to do it by myself. It's not going to be one media outlet somewhere or one person, or like I was the one who was going to do it. Like, I'm pretty much in control of my entire creative process, and I'm like, I'm just going to name it what I want to name it. And if one day I decide it's no longer a
Mhm.
box, it's a house
Mhm.
or it's a car or whatever it is, like, I still get to be in control of what I call it, and anybody who's coming on board already knows that this is already what it is. And the name itself is just kind of like a merge of the kind of music that I make, my interests, and my process as well, right? So at the very foundation of my sound is Afrobeats, heavy tribal percussions, the dance rhythms, the polyphonic rhythms, all of that. But like, growing up, I enjoy listening to classical music, cinematic scores, and was a very big fan of like 80s pop music. So I just looked at it that in crafting my own sound, I'm just going to merge elements from those different genres that I enjoy listening to into the Afro beats that I was making. And then the DM itself is kind of like a play on Carpe Diem, which is seize the day. So in terms of my process of how I make the music, it's okay, today, if I'm feeling like adding 80s synth pop to my mix and how I produce, because I produce all my own music, so it's very easy to move in and out. I'm just gonna do it. So it's a Afrobeat, seize the moment, seize the day type mix. Yeah.
I love that. And I like the DM part and the way that you explained it, shifting day to day. And it seems it's very much the opposite of a box, that it gives you a lot of freedom. And that must be helpful too, even just from an industry perspective in some ways, that you can genre morph, and hopefully that opens doors for you into different settings.
I mean, it did. I did perform at a venue that was typically geared towards like classical music. Like, they had a more classical music audience, and I was the very first Afrobeat artist that would come perform there. It was very interesting. Middle of the afternoon, a lot of senior citizens in the audience, but I was like, this is going to be fun. And it was a blast. Like,
Yeah.
that was where I clocked it. That's like, any audience will vibe with the music, any audience will vibe with Tommyphyll. Yeah. So it was good. It was good.
Incredible. And the message is in your music. Like, as you mentioned, like really positive. Are there reoccurring themes that you think are kind of connected to your community, to the infiltrators? Do you feel like people are kind of interacting with your message?
Yes, I actually do, because I try my best to get as much feedback from the community and just the online as possible. Sometimes you get that feedback that is very different from what you even expected, that sends you in a different direction of how I would end up writing a song. Because I also want to make sure that as much as I'm making the music for me, I'm also making the music. I want my listeners to know that I'm also making the music for them, because to me, the whole purpose of this is to be like a voice in the moments when people are not able to speak and say articulate what they really wanted to say. So it's like, oh yeah, this song gets me. The core message with most of the music that actually records oftentimes is about like self-confidence, breaking mental boundaries first, because I feel like the world from now till the end of time is always going to have physical boundaries, systemic boundaries. Like, we don't live in a utopia. Like, we're never going to live in a utopia. You get? So it's like the only boundary that you genuinely have control over first before you break anything else out there is the one that's in your mind. And I wanted to do it in such a way that it's not like I'm being preachy about the message. Like, I want people to dance, but while you're dancing and having a good time on the particular day when you decide, you know what, I just want to be conscious. I like actively listen to what I'm dancing to. It's like the lyrics are there, like, oh shit, that's what he was saying, that's what I'm going for. So it's like best of both worlds type of situation. You can dance and party to it when you don't want to think too much, but then when you decide you want to think and you want to think about it properly, like there's something there as well too for you.
And your online presence, I feel like from day one has had this like curated in a sense, like you're putting out very high quality stuff, but it also has a lot of humor in it as well. Can you speak a little bit to that? Like you're talking about serious stuff in a lot of that content. So did you make a conscious decision to be able to keep it light and infuse the humor into it? How did you kind of let yourself feel comfortable doing that?
Well, it's a part of my personality generally, and I've been just trying to make sure that as much as I'm making the music as well, my personality also shines through my art. So when you're listening to some of the songs, you hear some like witty comments in the background, that kind of thing, and I feel like people are also able to see a little bit of themselves in my artistry and me as an artist, because it's like we're not all serious all the time, and there's like a specific persona that most artists will craft where it's, oh man, I'm the best thing since sliced bread, this kind of energy. And to me, it's like, realistically speaking, yes, I do feel on most days that I'm the best thing since sliced bread, but at the same time, it's like realistically, we have those moments where you just kind of like want to just let loose, smile with a friend, talk, ask them how they are doing, crack a few jokes here and there, because in the end, we're still human. I think finding the balance between it has been very interesting because I edit all my own videos. Like I shoot, edit, do the whole thing aside from the music, just to keep the social media presence alive, because finding that balance has been very interesting. And I feel like I've pinned it down, if anything. So it's intentional, but it's intentional in the sense where it's also very natural to me as well.
So you're producing all of your own content. Everything looks really good and really professional. How did you learn how to do that kind of stuff? Was there like a conscious process to learn how to put that kind of thing together and create that content?
Here's the funny story, right? Out of all my creative endeavors, music was the last thing that I found out that I knew how to do. Like, music was the last. I used to draw a lot when I was a kid, write my own books and poetry. That was kind of like my in to the creative process. And then back in Nigeria, my brother and I used to shoot our own videos with the laptop camera. Very shitty videos, but we learned the basics of editing on the software that was there at that time. Like, we didn't even know what we were doing. We were just like kind of like, we had free time, we were playing around with it. We learned how to reverse videos, how to chop clips at the perfect time to tell a story, speed things up, all that weird stuff. And obviously, as time went on, I came here to Canada. I was a content creator for a bit before I ever even went into music. And so as a result of that, I had to learn how to edit my own videos like much, much better, got comfortable in front of the camera. And then I think 2018 was then when I finally decided, because I've been writing songs behind the scenes, like producing music on my iPhone. That was where I really learned my production chops because that was all I had, right? And 2018 was just like, I share everything I make. Aside from even the jackets that I design as well, as I share everything I make, I might as well just put this out there. I was very, very, very conscious at the beginning because it's like everything else wasn't really me. How do I explain it? Like, it was more like this is a persona that I have crafted and I'm putting out in front of you, but then with the music, it was very personal. So it was like, and do I share this? Do I not share this? But I'm so glad I took that leap of faith in 2018. I put it out, but the first thing I put out wasn't even my own voice. Like my voice wasn't on song. I just produced a beat and I sent it out to everybody who was on all my social media platforms. So I was like, I took my time, sent it to about 800 people at the time, like just manually, just, hey, I made this, kind of listen to it and whatnot. And I started getting comments like, where's your voice? Where's your voice? Where's your voice? So that's like, okay. So the people want to hear me sing. I have music for you. So after that, 1 month later, I dropped my very first song.
It's interesting to hear you say that you were just kind of DMing folks to, listen to your stuff. That's pretty grassroots marketing right there. How has your online community grown since then? And do you think it's because of something particular you did or just kind of a natural evolution?
I got a new camera. So there's something about it that, and I've heard some people say that it's, if your content isn't good enough, you have to make sure that your personality is extremely strong to shine through that terrible camera quality. So I mean, at the time I was balancing music with also talking. I noticed that I don't also even talk as much on my social media, where it's like just me addressing and just chatting. It's mostly music, but and I'm rectifying that. I'm working on that because that's a whole thing. But I got a new camera, and I just made the conscious decision that I'm going to invest in my equipment. Got a new camera, got lighting. Also, like, I didn't buy everything at once because you kind of have to, based off the most important need at the time. Then I got the camera, I got lights, start getting other things to add as well. But then I realized that immediately I started shooting videos with the camera, and I didn't even do that much editing with it compared to what I would do with the videos I shot with my iPhone. There was such a huge spike in engagement and a huge spike in saves, shares, and comments. And then that's when I clocked it. I was like, okay, so it's not that the music isn't good. It's the way the music is being presented or it's the way the music was being presented that was making it difficult for people to digest. Okay, so we're going to do this. High quality videos for 30-second snippets. That actually just made my whole life easier because previously I would do the whole edit of 1 minute. A 1 minute edit could take me about 2 to 3 hours to just kind of like find the right angles and all that stuff. But then when it became 30 seconds, it's just like, now I can shoot one video, chop it up, and have 5 different types of content that I would put out. And it's whatever one does best out of all these different clips or parts of the song is what I just end up focusing on. And I keep recording 30-second versions of. So that's how I've been doing it so far, Sha. And I've noticed growth, a lot of reach as well, but it could always be better.
That's a really interesting marketing strategy, like looking at those analytics and seeing where the most engagement is and being able to respond to that. Do you find that you're getting more traction on a certain social media platform, or are you trying to just be on all of them? What's your strategy for where you're broadcasting the content?
So I'm trying to be as on as many as possible. Like anytime there's a new one that comes out, I just go, even if I don't necessarily post there all the time, I just go create a username there just so at least it's like it's registered and whatnot. Right now, my biggest audience on social media is on Instagram because realistically, that was where I actually put in most of my effort when I first go on social media, before Twitter, TikTok, and all the rest. So now I'm at the stage where I'm also now consciously doing posts to build up those platforms as well. Because I noticed that what works on Instagram doesn't always work on TikTok. So I decided to break it down into assessing the social media platforms as though they were people with personalities, like what works best with this person. Instagram is more attuned to the polished aesthetic look of things. Twitter, on the other hand, is more like just like an opinionated friend. So you just kind of just share your opinions at the time. TikTok, on the other hand, is a little more laid back. You can, take the mask off, be a little more yourself. Because I noticed that the videos that tend to do very well on TikTok are not like overproduced, over edited videos. It's like the smart artist will combine a little bit of the iPhone camera footage, and then once they've hooked the viewer, they switch to the high quality content. Most people just swipe sometimes when they just see high quality content. So that's how I've been trying to balance it out. It's a lot of work, it's a lot of
Yeah.
time. Because, man, doing it by myself sometimes burnout comes in, but it needs to be done.
When it comes to burnout, the stuff that you're doing, it's creative, right? But it's also content and it's also work. So, are you able to draw from the well of creativity? Is it always there for you, or sometimes do you have to kind of manufacture it and think of it more, this is a job, I got to get this thing done and come up with something?
Nah, like the creative well is always there. That's what I've convinced myself of. I think because again, if you tell yourself it's there, truth be told, you will find it. But what I found out was that the bucket to access the content of the well is rest. Like if I've been on a project for a while, my brain literally starts telling me, and I know this is a thing that all artists, creative people feel, like my brain starts telling me, it's enough. We're doing the same thing over and over again. This is not productive. But here's the thing, right? It's a tricky situation because when I've noticed that when I'm also able to push past that initial fatigue to execute the idea that I like, once I have the idea in my head, even if I'm tired, if I'm able to push past the initial fatigue, I execute that idea. And it might just be maybe 5 minutes of hanging in there that ended up giving me the access that I needed. And once I get it, I'm like, okay, cool, hands off. Let me not over tap into this creative moment so that when I want to come back, the enthusiasm to come back is there because I know there's something I left off, as opposed to just kind of like tapping the whole thing dry and then be like, oh shit, now I have to go back again and figure out where to start from. So it's a balance, rest. I'm going to listen to other people's music or consume other content that has absolutely nothing to do with music.
And I wanted to just give a shout out as well to your visual art. You're amazing, amazing visual artist, and you design your own jackets and just really beautiful stuff. So, two questions. One, where's the merch that we can all buy?
It's coming. It's coming. It's coming. I don't just want to drop rubbish merch.
It's not
It's
rubbish. You
coming.
make, yeah, people go check out like the paintings and the work that you do to put
Yes.
together these jackets and it's fashion design. It's so much. It's inspiring, the artistry and just the work, like how much work goes into doing that. So yeah, merch line, please, at some point.
It's coming. It's coming.
So do you approach these other forms of art in the same way, or do they kind of play off each other? Are they connected, or are you kind of compartmentalizing your creative brain for these different artistic endeavors?
I feel like it feeds into the different creative endeavors feed into each other. When I create a song, I usually have visuals playing in my head and I'm thinking, okay, what scene would this be in? Like I'm always thinking, funny enough, like I'm always thinking about my songs from a sync perspective. It's not intentional, but it's what happens where I've always thought about how my songs would fit into a movie, like what scene, because I told you how I'm a very big fan of like cinematic scores and all that. So it's been a thing from jump. So the visuals inspired by the music in a way, and like other creative endeavors themselves, like I just try my best to they connect later. I think that's the best way to explain it. Like they all connect later because I don't like to force anything. The music itself is the only thing where I'm like, okay, cool. This might sound cool on this scene. What instrument would I add here that would fit perfectly there or whatnot? But everything else is just kind of like, I did a thing, and now we figure out a way to connect everything.
So back to the infiltrators, you've cultivated these positive messages in this supportive community. Have you ever had any pushback, or like is there a negative side to that at all that you've had to experience from the community?
I haven't experienced any direct negative feedback. I tell myself this, that to be honest, I'm waiting for it. I'm not even gonna lie. The truth about it is that once you get negative feedback, the way I see it is like it means you're reaching an audience beyond your initial core, which is what I want. I want it to grow. And the truth about it is that there will be people who will say things, and it's my job to keep putting out like beautiful pieces of art that would either convince them or would just strengthen their hatred. Like,
Hey, all press is good press, right?
So I mean, I did get one guy one time directly on my comment section, literally just put it there. It was like, this song is trash, man. And he went back to go and comment on the other
Oh
posts
my
that
God.
had the same song. And I looked at it and I was like, this is good. I'm going to broadcast this, right? Because like most people would want to hide it, and I was like, nah, let's take away this guy's power by putting him on the spot. So I put him on blast. Like I did a whole thing where I was like, you're lying. Because clearly, I think this is another thing where being self-assured comes in, because I'm not necessarily looking for validation from outside people, to be honest, because I've already been through that wave, and it's not a great place to be, and I feel happier with myself just being with myself, if anything. So when I saw that message, I was just like, yo, this is actually very funny. I'm going to put you on blast. The guy deleted his account afterwards.
Oh my God.
I didn't say anything wrong per se. I just called him out. I was like, okay, what about this song don't you like? Because once you start asking the questions, that's when people are like, oh, well. So yeah, nothing too major yet.
Yeah.
Nothing too major yet. Yeah.
Before we wrap up here, I want you to tell us about the new EP. Where can they find it? What's it all about?
All right. So the title of the EP is called Love Me Like the First Day. It's available on all streaming platforms, whatever it is you listen to. The EP is a 4-track project that signifies, euphoria in a project. Like the theme for the rollout of the whole project is tied into the Secret Service, the Inphylltrators versus the Ostiari, which are like, that's just another name for gatekeepers, And the whole concept or the story behind the project itself is just that we live in a world, or in my world, at least the story of this project is that there's a world where beauty, feeling, euphoria, all of that was taken away from people. And now it's the job of me and the Inphylltrators to bring it back to the people, give it back to them. So Love Me Like the First Day is part of the mission. Sharing Love Me Like the First Day is part of the mission. That's why on the cover art you see the blue pill, which is, supposed to signify MASH. I call it MASH, which is a play on all the titles of all the songs in the project. This is Melanin, Available, Sunshine, Headspace. So I created this project based off of what it feels to fall in love the very first time, and how, as you go through the motions of actually loving somebody, that butterfly in your tummy feeling sometimes fades and it comes back. It's like an in and out type situation. So I wanted to hold on to that in a song. So, like whenever anybody's feeling like, oh man, like I really love this person, but I can't necessarily remember why, that kind of thing. It's like you listen to the songs, like you vibe a little bit, but it's a 2-part project. So the very first part of the project is called Love Me Like the First Day. And then the second part of the project is going to be called But This Time the Right Way. So the very first part is more like focused on, like I said, euphoria, the butterflies in your tummy when you meet somebody, the novelty of falling in love with somebody. But then this time the right way, the songs that are focused on that is now what it means to actively love somebody outside just the euphoric feeling, like now you're choosing to do it despite the pretty situations and the not so pretty situations. So there are songs that are coming.
That's awesome. I very enthusiastically encourage folks to go onto your favorite streaming platforms, save, download, do all the things. Check out Tommyphyll's social media presence. You'll love it. It's inspiring. Now you know how he does it all. So please go follow him online, become an infiltrator, join the movement.
Sign up to the mailing list.
Perfect. Tommyphyll, it's been such a pleasure to chat with you today. Thank you so much for sharing with us.
Thank you.
That's all for this episode, friends. The Refocus podcast is an original production by Folk Canada. Find out more by heading to folkcanada.com/refocus. That's REFOLKUS. The podcast is produced by Kayla Nizon and Rosalind Dennett and mixed by Jordan Moore at the Pod Cabin. The opening theme is written and performed by King Cardiac, and the artwork is by Jamie Karn. Please give us a download, subscribe, rate, and review to let us know you care, and follow us at folk_Canada on Instagram to submit your questions.